Hello, my amazing friends, and welcome back to Timeless Stories. Today, we are going to tell the incredible story of Taylor Swift. But this is not only a story about a singer. This is not only a story about songs, awards, dresses, stadiums, or fans screaming her name. This is a story about a girl who learned one rare and powerful lesson. If the world tries to write your story for you, you must take the pen back. At the beginning, Taylor Swift was just a young girl with a dream. She was not born on a giant stage. She did not begin her life inside a palace of fame. She began as a child in Pennsylvania, writing poems, singing songs, and believing that words could carry feelings from one heart to another. But the road was not easy. She was rejected. She was laughed at. She was judged. She was humiliated in front of millions of people. She was called fake. She was called a snake. She disappeared when the whole world seemed to turn against her. And later, even the music she had written from her own life was controlled by other people. So, here is the big question. How did this young girl become one of the most successful artists in modern history? How did she turn heartbreak into songs, rejection into work, and public pain into power? And what is the final secret behind Taylor Swift's success? Stay with me until the end, because at the end of this story, I will reveal the quiet truth that made Taylor Swift different from many other stars. This story will help you practice English, learn natural sentences, and understand how one person can build a life from courage, patience, and a pen. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it there? And if you enjoy learning English through powerful life stories, subscribe to Timeless Stories. Your support helps this channel grow and brings more stories like this to you. Now, let's begin. Taylor Allison Swift was born on December 13, 1989, in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Her father, Scott Swift, worked in finance. Her mother, Andrea Swift, also had a business background. Taylor also had a younger brother, Austin. Her family was close, supportive, and important in her early life. When Taylor was a little girl, her family lived on a Christmas tree farm in Pennsylvania. Imagine that scene for a moment. A small girl walking between rows of green trees. Cold air, soft light, holiday colors. A quiet farm far away from the noise of stadiums and cameras. At that time, Taylor was not a global star. She was a child with a notebook. And in that notebook, she was already building a world. Some children play with dolls. Some children run outside all day. Taylor did those things too. But she also loved words. She wrote poems. She made up stories. She listened to music and felt something deep inside her. Her grandmother, Marjorie Finlay, had been an opera singer. Music was already somewhere in the family story. Maybe Taylor heard that invisible echo. Maybe she felt that a voice could travel across time. When Taylor was young, She was inspired by country music artists, especially Shania Twain. Taylor saw Shania not just as a singer, but as a woman who could tell stories with confidence, emotion, and style. Taylor began to dream. Not a small dream. A dream with lights, music, and thousands of people singing along. But the most important thing was this. Taylor did not only want to sing. She wanted to write. She wanted to tell her own stories. That detail matters. Many people can perform a song, but Taylor wanted to create the song. She wanted to take a feeling, turn it into words, and give it back to the world. When she was still young, her parents noticed her passion. They supported her. She took singing lessons. She performed at local events, fairs, festivals, and small places where only a few people might stop and listen. But Taylor was serious. She was not only playing, she was learning. Every small stage was practice. Every small audience was training. Every song was a step. Then came one of the most important moments of her childhood. Taylor wanted to go to Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville was the heart of country music. For a young girl who wanted to become a country singer and songwriter, Nashville was not just a city. It was a dream with streets and buildings. When Taylor was around 11, she traveled with her mother to Nashville. She carried demo CDs with her. She went to record labels and gave them her music. Think about that image. A little girl walking into places full of adults, business people, producers, and professionals. She had a dream in her hands. She hoped someone would listen. But most people said no. They said she was too young. They said she was not ready. They did not see what she saw, and this is where many dreams die. A person tries once. The world says no. Then the person goes home and thinks, maybe I was foolish. Maybe I am not special. Maybe this dream is too big. But Taylor did not stop. She understood something very early. If everyone says no, you can either become smaller or you can become better. So she worked. At about 12, she learned to play the guitar. She practiced. She wrote more songs. She spent hours with melodies, chords, and lyrics. She studied how a song could begin, how a chorus could rise, and how one simple line could make people feel understood. Her family later moved closer to Nashville to support her dream. This was not a small decision. It meant that Taylor's dream became a family journey. But even in Nashville, nothing was guaranteed. The music world is beautiful from far away. But when you come close, it is full of locked doors. Taylor signed a publishing deal as a young teenager, and she wrote with experienced songwriters. But she also wanted something more. She wanted to record her own songs in her own voice. Then came a turning point. Taylor performed at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, a famous place for songwriters. In the audience was Scott Borchetta, a music executive who was planning to start a new record label called Big Machine Records. He saw something in her, not only a young voice, not only blonde hair and a guitar, he saw a storyteller. Taylor signed with Big Machine Records as one of its first artists. She was still a teenager. She had been rejected by many doors, but one door opened. And sometimes one open door is enough to change a life. In 2006, Taylor released her debut single, Tim McGraw. The song was not loud or wild. It was personal. It sounded like a memory. It sounded like a girl looking back at a feeling and turning it into music. That same year, she released her first album, called Taylor Swift. She was only 16. Suddenly, people began to notice her. Here was a young girl writing about teenage life with honesty. She wrote about crushes, heartbreak, high school, friendship, and feeling invisible. She wrote in a way that made listeners say, "Wait, that is my life too." This became one of Taylor's greatest powers. She did not try to sound far away. She sounded close. She made private feelings feel public. She made ordinary pain feel important. And that was just the beginning. In 2008, Taylor released Fearless. This album changed everything. Songs like Love Story and You Belong With Me became huge hits. Love Story felt like a fairy tale with a country pop heart. You Belong With Me felt like the voice of every young person who had loved someone from a distance. Taylor was no longer just a new country singer. She was becoming the voice of a generation. Then, in 2009, she stood on one of the biggest stages in pop culture. At the MTV Video Music Awards, Taylor won Best Female Video for You Belong With Me. She walked on stage, holding her award, ready to speak. Then Kanye West came on stage, took the microphone, and interrupted her speech. The room changed in 1 second. Taylor stood there, shocked and silent. Millions of people watched. For a young artist, this could have been a terrible wound. It was not only embarrassing, it was public. It happened in a place where she was supposed to celebrate. Later that night, Beyoncé showed kindness by inviting Taylor back to the stage when Beyoncé won her own award. Taylor got a chance to speak again, but the moment stayed in history, and more importantly, it stayed in Taylor's story. Here is something important to understand. Taylor did not build her career by never being hurt. She built her career by using hurt without letting it destroy her. The pain became part of the work. The public embarrassment became fuel. In 2010, Taylor released Speak Now. She wrote the album herself. That mattered because critics sometimes questioned her. Some people asked if she was really the writer behind her songs. Speak Now answered them. It was like Taylor saying, "Listen carefully. These are my words. This is my voice. I know how to tell my own story." The album included songs about apology, memory, criticism, fantasy, and regret. She was growing up in front of the world, and she was doing it through music. Then came Red in 2012. Red was a bridge between country and pop. It was full of strong emotions bright colors and heartbreak. Songs like "We Are Never, Ever Getting Back Together," "I Knew You Were Trouble," "22," and "All Too Well" showed that Taylor was changing. She was not staying inside one box. Some people loved the change. Some people criticized it. But Taylor kept moving. Then in 2014, she released 1989. This was her full move into pop music. It was bold. It was clear. It was risky. Many country artists are afraid to leave country. Many pop artists are afraid to change too much. But Taylor understood that growth sometimes looks like danger. With songs like "Shake It Off," "Blank Space," "Style," and "Bad Blood," Taylor became one of the biggest pop stars in the world. But fame always has a shadow. The bigger Taylor became, the more people watched her. They watched her friendships. They watched her relationships. They watched her clothes. They watched her face in award shows. They turned her private life into public entertainment. For years, people joked about her love life. They said she only wrote breakup songs. They made her pain into a punchline. But again, Taylor used the noise. She took the image people created of her and played with it. In "Blank Space," she turned the media's idea of her into a character. She made fun of the story before the story could fully control her. That is one reason she became so powerful. She learned how to use the mirror that the world held up to her. But the hardest storm was still coming. In 2016, Taylor became part of another huge public controversy connected to Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. A phone call was released online, and many people believed Taylor had not told the truth about a lyric in Kanye's song. The internet turned cruel. People filled her social media with snake emojis. They called her a liar. They said her career was over. For the first time in many years, Taylor disappeared from the public eye. No big interviews, no constant posts, no bright smiles for every camera. Silence. And silence can be frightening when you are famous, because the world does not wait gently. The world writes its own story when you do not speak. Many people thought Taylor Swift was finished. But Taylor was not finished. She was studying the storm. She was deciding what to do with the pain. And in 2017, she returned with Reputation. Before the album came out, Taylor deleted her social media posts. Then she posted images of a snake. That was a brilliant move. The same symbol people had used to insult her became the symbol of her comeback. The message was clear. You called me a snake, so I will turn the snake into armor. Look what you made me do was not a soft return. It was dark, dramatic, and sharp. Taylor was no longer asking people to understand her. She was telling them she had survived. The Reputation era showed a new Taylor. Stronger, colder on the surface, and more protected. But under the black outfits and bold images, the old Taylor was still there. The songwriter was still there. The girl with the notebook was still there. She had simply learned that fame is not always a warm light. Sometimes fame is a fire, and you must learn how to walk through it. The Reputation Stadium tour became a major success. Fans showed up not only for the music, but for the return of a woman who had been publicly attacked and still stood tall. Then Taylor changed again. In 2019, she released Lover. The colors became softer, the music became warmer. It was a new chapter after the darkness of Reputation. But behind the bright colors, Taylor was also entering one of the most important battles of her life, the battle for her masters. To understand this, we need to keep it simple. A master recording is the original recording of a song. If someone owns the master, they have great control over how that recording is used and how money from it flows. Taylor's first 6 albums were released under Big Machine Records. The label owned the masters. In 2019, Big Machine was sold to Scooter Braun's company, and Taylor's masters were included in that deal. Taylor said she was deeply hurt by this. She said she had tried to gain ownership, but the situation did not allow her to buy them in a way she felt was fair. Imagine writing songs from your diary, your heartbreak, your childhood dreams, your fears, and your memories. Then imagine that the recordings of those songs belong to someone else. For Taylor, this was not only business. It was personal. But instead of only complaining, Taylor made a decision that changed the music industry. She would re-record her first albums. These new albums would be called Taylor's Version. This idea was simple but powerful. If she could not control the old recordings, she could create new recordings that she owned. Fans understood. They supported her. They streamed Taylor's Version. They bought Taylor's Version. They helped her turn a painful business loss into a movement about artists' rights. Fearless, Taylor's Version Cas came in 2021. Red, Taylor's Version Cas, also came in 2021. Then, Speak Now, Taylor's Version Cas arrived in 2023. 1989. Taylor's Version Cas followed in 2023. Each release was not just nostalgia. It was an act of ownership. Taylor was not only looking back, she was taking back. And then, in 2020, during a time when the world was quiet because of the pandemic, Taylor surprised people again. She released Folklore. This was not stadium pop. It was soft, poetic, and intimate. The songs felt like stories from a forest, a small town, or an old memory. Then she released Evermore, another sister album full of storytelling. These albums reminded people that beneath all the fame, Taylor was still a writer. She did not need fireworks to hold attention. She could hold attention with a whisper. In 2022, Taylor released Midnights. It explored sleepless thoughts, memories, self-doubt, revenge, love, and the strange quiet of night. The song Anti-Hero became one of her biggest hits. In that song, Taylor did something brave. she did not pretend to be perfect. She looked at her own flaws and fears. That honesty is another reason fans trust her. She does not only say, "Look at my success." She also says, "Look at my doubt." Then came one of the biggest chapters of her career, the Eras Tour. Beginning in 2023 and ending in 2024, the Eras Tour became more than a concert tour. It became a cultural event. Fans dressed in outfits from different albums. They traded friendship bracelets. They traveled across cities and countries. Parents came with children. Friends came together. People sang words that had carried them through different years of their lives. The tour celebrated every version of Taylor. The country girl, the pop star, the woman in black, the dreamer in pastel colors, the poet in the woods, the sleepless storyteller. It was not only a concert, it was a memory machine. It allowed millions of people to walk through Taylor's life and their own lives at the same time. The Eras Tour became the highest-grossing music tour ever recorded, passing $2 billion in gross revenue. That number is huge, but the deeper meaning is bigger than money. The deeper meaning is this: Taylor's past did not disappear. Every old era became useful again. Every change became part of the whole story. Every version of her had a place on the stage. In 2024, she released The Tortured Poets Department, another large and emotional project. Once again, people listened closely to her words, searching for meaning, heartbreak, confession, and truth. By this time, Taylor Swift was not only a singer. She was a songwriter, director, performer, businesswoman, and cultural force. She had won many major awards, including multiple Grammy Awards. She became the first artist to win the Grammy for Album of the Year 4 times. She also became a billionaire, with much of her wealth coming from music, touring, and the value of her catalog. But the story did not end there. In 2025, Taylor announced that she had regained ownership of the masters for her first 6 albums. This was a full circle moment. Remember the little girl with the notebook? Remember the teenager walking into Nashville with demo CDs? Remember the young woman standing silent at the VMAs? Remember the artist covered in snake emojis? Remember the singer whose old recordings were controlled by other people? Now she owned her work. Not only the songs in her heart, not only the new versions, but the original recordings too. This was not just a business victory. It was emotional justice. It was a message to every artist who has ever felt powerless. It was Taylor saying, "My story belongs to me." And now we come to the final secret I promised at the beginning. What made Taylor Swift different? Was it her voice? Yes, her voice mattered. Was it her songwriting? Of course, her songwriting mattered. Was it hard work? Yes, she worked for many years. Was it fans? Yes, her fans became one of the strongest communities in music. But the deepest secret is this: Taylor Swift became powerful because she never let other people have the final word on her life. When they said she was too young, she kept writing. When they embarrassed her, she kept singing. When they mocked her love life, she turned pain into songs. When they called her a snake, she turned the snake into a symbol. When they controlled her masters, she made Taylor's version. When the world tried to write her ending, she wrote another chapter. That is the real lesson. Taylor Swift did not only build a career, she built ownership of her own story. And maybe this is why millions of people connect with her. Because deep inside, many of us are also fighting for our own story. Maybe someone told you that you were not good enough. Maybe someone laughed at your dream. Maybe you failed before. Maybe you feel too late, too ordinary, too small, or too afraid. But Taylor's life reminds us of something simple and strong. You do not need the whole world to believe in you at the beginning. You need to keep the pen in your hand. You need to keep learning. You need to keep improving. You need to keep telling the truth in your own voice. Your first stage may be small. Your first audience may be tiny. Your first try may fail. But every great story begins somewhere. Taylor Swift began with a notebook, a guitar, a dream, and the courage to try again after rejection. And look what happened. If this story touched you, I would love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Which part of Taylor Swift's life stayed with you the most? Was it the little girl walking into Nashville with demo CDs? Was it the night she stood silent at the VMAs? Or was it the moment she finally owned her music again? If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to Timeless Stories. Here, we do not only tell stories, we tell the lives behind the legends. We learn English through emotion, memory, and meaning. Thank you for watching until the end. Remember this: people may judge your first chapter, but they do not have to write your final page. Keep your pen, keep your dream, and keep going. I will see you in the next story.